The awakening. The rhythmic hum of the artificial heart in my chest reminded me of what I had become, neither fully human nor completely machine. As drone N436Z984, I was one of the countless semi-organic entities serving aboard the grand vessel of the Universal Omni Union. The massive shipyard stretched before me, a testament to the Union's technological prowess and ruthless efficiency. My designation wasn't always a string of numbers and letters. Once, I had a name, a family, and a home planet. But that was before the Union arrived, before they decided our species was worthy of elevation rather than extinction. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between maintenance cycles, I wondered if extinction might have been kinder. The anti-grav generator's warning signals pulled me from my reminiscence. Section A026, nicknamed NASA by the maintenance crews, was showing critical fluctuations. As I made my way through the labyrinthine corridors, my augmented vision highlighted the increasing instability in the generator's core. Drone N436, status report, the familiar voice of Overseer Protocol echoed through my neural interface. En route to Section A026. Preliminary readings suggest potential cascade failure in the anti-grav systems, I responded, my voice maintaining the emotionless tone expected of drones. The Overseer's response came with an undertone of satisfaction that made my organic components shiver. Excellent. Technician 40 is already on site. Coordinate with her and ensure the generator's stability. Something in the Overseer's tone felt off, but questioning authority wasn't part of a drone's programming. As I approached Section A026, I noticed unusual energy signatures on my scanners, patterns I'd never encountered in my 15 years of service. The maintenance bay doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing Technician 40, or 40, as she preferred to be called when no overseers were monitoring. Her partially cybernetic frame was bent over the generator's control panel, her augmented fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "About time you showed up, 436, she said without looking up. These readings make absolutely no sense. It's as if the generator is fighting against its own containment protocols." I moved closer, my systems automatically scanning and analyzing the data streams. The energy signature doesn't match any known configuration in the Union's database. Fori finally turned to face me, her remaining organic eye narrowing. Exactly. And do you know what's even stranger? The fluctuation started precisely 3 minutes after the last shift change. Almost as if someone programmed them deliberately, I finished her thought, immediately regretting speaking it aloud. Such speculation could be considered deviation from protocol. The generator's casing suddenly emanated a soft blue glow, a color that shouldn't have been possible given its design specifications. Before either of us could react, the maintenance bay doors sealed shut with a heavy thunk. Warning, unauthorized protocol detected. Security containment initiated, the facility's AI announced, its usual monotone carrying an edge of confusion. Fori's hands flew across the control panel. This isn't a malfunction, 436. Someone's using the generator as a beacon. But for what? The answer came in the form of a shimmer in the air between us and the generator. The space itself seemed to fold, creating patterns that hurt both my organic and artificial visual processors. Through the distortion stepped figures unlike anything in the Union's vast database of conquered species. Their armor was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying, dark green plates that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, with patterns that made it impossible to focus on any one point for too long. The beings inside could have been anything, organic, mechanical, or something beyond our understanding. Drone N436Z984 and Technician 40, one of them spoke, their voice carrying an almost musical quality despite its artificial translation. "We've been watching you both for some time. You retain more of your original selves than the Union intended. More importantly, you've begun to question. My combat protocols screamed for activation, but something deeper, perhaps what remained of my original self, held them in check. These beings had bypassed the most sophisticated security systems in known space as if they were children's puzzles. "Who are you?" Fori demanded, her voice steady despite the situation. "We are what the Union fears most," another figure replied. "We are the remnants of the first species they tried to conquer, the ones who escaped their Grand Elevation project. We are the Resistance, and we've come to show you the truth about the Grand Vessel and the price of its construction." The lead figure extended a hand, offering what appeared to be a data crystal. "Your choice, right now, is simple but profound. Continue serving as partially conscious drones in a system built on genocide, or help us prevent the completion of a weapon designed to enslave not just galaxies, but reality itself." My organic heart raced against its mechanical support as memories long suppressed began to surface, memories of my home, my people, and the day the Union arrived with their false promises of advancement and unity. "The anti-grav generator," I said slowly, understanding dawning. "It's not malfunctioning. You're using it to mask your ship's presence." "Correct," the leader confirmed. "We've planted similar beacons throughout the shipyard. The Union believes they're building humanity's greatest achievement. In truth, they're constructing their own extinction event, and they're using countless enslaved species to do it." Fori stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing intensely. "Assuming we believe you, what exactly are you proposing?" "A chance to be more than drones. A chance to save what remains of your original selves and countless others like you." The figure's armor shifted, revealing glimpses of something beneath that seemed to defy physical laws. "But we must act now. The Union's deep scan protocols will detect our presence soon, and we won't get another chance to access this section of the shipyard for months." I looked at Fori, seeing in her expression the same war between programmed loyalty and awakening consciousness that raged within me. The Union had given us extended life through their cybernetic improvements, but at what cost? How many other species had been stripped of their essence, turned into nothing more than biological components in the Union's great machine? "If we help you," I said carefully, "what guarantee do we have that you're any different from the Union? That this isn't just another form of control?" The leader's response was unexpected. They reached up and removed their helmet, revealing a face that caused both my organic and artificial systems to recoil in shock. What we saw challenged everything the Union had taught us about the nature of life itself. Because unlike the Union, they said, their true voice bypassing our audio processors and resonating directly in our consciousness, we offer you something they never will, the freedom to choose, even if that choice is to refuse us. The generator's pulsing increased, and with it came a decision point that would reshape not just our futures, but potentially those of countless beings across multiple galaxies. The truth about the Grand Vessel, it seemed, was far darker than even my most pessimistic algorithms had calculated. The choice before us was clear, yet impossibly complex. Help these mysterious beings and risk everything, including what remained of our organic selves, or maintain our role in a system we now knew was driving towards something far worse than mere conquest. As the seconds ticked by, marked by the steady rhythm of my artificial heart, I realized that for the first time since my elevation, I was about to make a truly autonomous decision. The question was, could I live with the consequences? Shattered protocols. The moment we stepped through the dimensional breach onto the resistance vessel, our neural interfaces went dark. The sudden silence in my mind was both terrifying and exhilarating, like losing a sense I'd relied on for decades while gaining something far more precious, true autonomy. Fori stumbled beside me, her cybernetic eye flickering as it attempted to adjust to the ship's unusual electromagnetic field. The interior was unlike anything in Union design archives. Organic curves melded seamlessly with technology that seemed to operate on principles that defied our understanding. Your systems will adapt, our guide, who had introduced himself as Commander Simmons, explained. The quantum dampening field disrupts Union control protocols while leaving your core functions intact. Think of it as a reset to your original state, minus the oppressive oversight. How many others have you rescued? I asked, watching as more resistance members moved through corridors that seemed to shift and reconfigure themselves. Not enough, Simmons replied grimly. The Union's control is nearly absolute in most sectors. You two are the first we've managed to extract from the Grand Vessel project in over 3 stellar cycles. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing the massive framework of the Grand Vessel. But this wasn't the sanitized technical readout we were familiar with. This display revealed something far more sinister. What we're about to show you is the true purpose of the Grand Vessel, another resistance member said, stepping forward. Her armor rippled like liquid metal as it retracted, revealing a form that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. My name is Dr. Venna. I was part of the original research team before we discovered the truth. The hologram zoomed in on the vessel's quantum core, the part of the ship I'd never been allowed to access despite my high clearance level. The technical data streaming across the display made my artificial components surge with recognition while my organic parts recoiled in horror. The Grand Vessel isn't just a ship, Dr. Venna explained, her multidimensional form rippling with what I interpreted as distress. It's a reality engine. The Union isn't interested in merely conquering space, they're building a device capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of existence. Fori stepped closer to the hologram, her engineer's mind already processing the implications. The resource demands, all those worlds they stripped bare, were necessary for gathering exotic matter and quantum-entangled materials, Dr. Venna confirmed. Each conquered species provided unique biological and technological components needed for the reality engine's construction. Your own cybernetic adaptations were experiments in combining organic consciousness with quantum-scale manipulation. My artificial heart skipped a beat as memories of my elevation procedure surfaced, memories I'd been unable to access until now. The integration protocols, they weren't just about control, were they? They were testing our compatibility with the engine itself. Correct, Simmons said. The Union needs beings capable of surviving exposure to quantum-scale manipulation. Traditional organic life can't handle it. Mechanical systems alone can't provide the necessary consciousness framework. But cyborg drones like yourselves. We're prototypes, Fori whispered, her organic eye widening. They're planning to hook us directly into the reality engine. The hologram shifted, showing hundreds of drone integration chambers being constructed throughout the Grand Vessel. Each chamber was designed to house a cybernetically enhanced being, their consciousness tied directly into the ship's quantum core. The Union believes they can use your combined processing power to stabilize the reality alterations, Dr. Venna explained. But their calculations are flawed. We've run the simulations countless times. The moment they activate the engine, it will create a cascade effect that will ripple across all dimensions, unraveling the very fabric of space-time. Before we could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the resistance ship. The hologram flickered and changed, showing a massive Union fleet emerging from hyperspace. They found us, Simmons announced, his armor reforming around him. The quantum dampening field must have been detected. No, I said, my enhanced senses picking up something else. They're not here for us. Look at their formation, they're escorting something. The hologram zoomed out, revealing an object that sent shivers through both my organic and artificial components. It was another section of the Grand Vessel, larger than any we'd seen before, being towed by dozens of Union ships. The quantum core housing, Dr. Venna breathed. They're ahead of schedule. If they manage to install it. How long? Fori demanded, her technical mind already calculating possibilities. 2 weeks, maybe less, Simmons replied. Once the core is in place, they'll begin the drone integration process. We estimate they'll need at least 10,000 cybernetically enhanced beings to power the initial reality manipulation attempt. My mind raced with implications. There aren't that many drones with our level of enhancement in the entire Union fleet. No, Dr. Venna agreed, her form shifting with what I now recognized as anger. Which is why they've dispatched harvest fleets to 12 inhabited systems. They're going to create new drones, forcibly elevating entire populations to serve as components in their engine. The Resistance ship shuddered as it activated its cloaking systems. Through the quantum-filtered viewing ports, we watched the Union fleet move past, dragging their reality-ending cargo toward the shipyard we just escaped. "We need to stop them," Fori said, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. "But not just for us. For every species they plan to harvest, for every being they've already twisted into something unnatural. That's why we need you both," Simmons explained. "Your intimate knowledge of the Grand Vessel systems, combined with your unique cybernetic configurations, might be the key to preventing this catastrophe. But you need to understand, helping us means you can never return to your old lives. The Union will mark you as defective, schedule you for immediate recycling." I looked at my hands, one organic, one cybernetic, and thought about all the years I'd spent serving a cause I'd never fully understood. Our old lives were never really ours to begin with. But what you're suggesting, it's not just resistance. It would be open war against the most powerful force in known space. Dr. Vena's form stabilized, taking on a more humanoid appearance. "Sometimes the only way to prevent a greater horror is to embrace a lesser one. We're not just fighting for freedom anymore, we're fighting for the continued existence of reality itself." The ship's sensors detected more Union fleets entering the sector, all converging on the shipyard. Time was running out, not just for us, but for every living being in every dimension that had ever existed or would exist. As we watched the Union Armada grow larger, I realized we weren't just drones anymore. We were now something far more dangerous. We were drones with a choice, with knowledge of our true purpose, and with the terrible burden of understanding exactly what was at stake. The Resistance had given us back our free will. Now we had to decide how to use it. Echoes of humanity. The Resistance ship's medical bay hummed with energy as Dr. Vena's team worked to modify our cybernetic systems. My artificial heart lay exposed, its quantum processors visible beneath layers of biosynthetic mesh. Beside me, Fori underwent similar procedures, her enhanced components being carefully reconfigured to operate independently of Union protocols. "Neural pathway reconstruction complete," announced one of the medical technicians, their form shifting between states of matter as they worked. "Beginning quantum signature masking sequence." The procedure was necessary but terrifying. Without it, we'd be instantly detectable to Union sensors. But one wrong adjustment could shatter the delicate balance between our organic and artificial components, leaving us either fully mechanical or tragically human, neither state capable of executing the mission ahead. "I'm detecting residual memory fragments," Dr. Vena said, her multidimensional form focusing on a holographic display of my neural network. "Memories from before your elevation, they're still intact, just suppressed by Union programming." A sudden surge of electricity coursed through my systems as the quantum dampeners were temporarily lifted. Images flooded my consciousness, a blue sky over rolling hills, the smell of morning dew, a child's laughter. My daughter's face, clear for the first time in decades, looked up at me with eyes that matched my original ones. "Sarah," I whispered, the name feeling foreign on my partially synthetic tongue. Her name was Sarah. "The Union doesn't completely erase what we were," Fori said softly from her adjacent medical pod. "They just bury it deep enough that we can't access it without breaking their control protocols." Commander Simmons entered the medical bay, his armor rippling with urgent patterns. "We've decoded more of the Union's quantum core schematics. It's worse than we thought." The holographic display shifted, showing the massive core structure being assembled in the shipyard. Overlaid on the technical diagrams were biological readings, neural patterns, consciousness wavelengths, and something else that made both my organic and artificial components recoil. "They're not just planning to use drone processors to power the reality engine," Dr. Vena explained, her form fluctuating with distress. "They're going to harvest the quantum signatures of our original memories, our very souls, for lack of a better term, to stabilize the dimensional rifts." Fori's cybernetic eye flared. That's why they don't completely erase our past selves during elevation. They're saving that energy, storing it like batteries. Precisely, Simmons confirmed. The emotional resonance of lost memories, the quantum echoes of severed connections, they're all forms of energy the Union has been secretly accumulating. Each drone is not just a processor, but a container of potential reality-warping power. My artificial heart rate increased as I processed the implications. How many drones are currently active in Union space? At last count. Dr. Vena's form solidified grimly. Over 10 million. Each one carrying the quantum signature of their original consciousness, their lost connections, their forgotten loves and hopes and dreams. All waiting to be consumed by the reality engine. The medical bay's screens suddenly flashed with new data as the resistance ship sensors detected unusual activity in the shipyard. The quantum core installation had begun, ahead of even the accelerated schedule we'd feared. They're not waiting for the harvest fleets, Simmons observed. They're going to use the drones they already have. A technician's voice came over the ship's communication system. Commander, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Union fleet. They're activating some kind of quantum resonance pulse. Through the medical bay's quantum-filtered windows, we watched as waves of invisible energy rippled across space. On the sensor displays, countless dots of light, each representing a drone ship or installation, began pulsing in synchronization. They're calling them home, Dr. Vena whispered. Every drone in Union space is being summoned to the grand vessel. I sat up, biological muscles straining against cybernetic enhancements as the medical procedures completed. How long until our modifications are ready? Another hour, the chief medical technician replied. But the quantum masking isn't fully tested. If it fails while we're in Union space, we'll be detected instantly, Fori finished. And our memories, our quantum signatures, will be added to their collection. The resistance ship shuddered as another wave of energy passed through the sector. On the tactical displays, streams of Union ships began converging on the shipyard, each carrying their cargo of cybernetically enhanced beings, each one a container of stolen memories and suppressed humanity. There's something else, Simmons said, interfacing directly with the ship's sensors. The quantum resonance pulse, it's not just affecting active drones. It's reaching through time, connecting to the quantum signatures of every being the Union has ever elevated. Dr. Vena's form became almost transparent with shock. They're creating a temporal quantum network. Past, present, and potential future elevations all linked together. The power potential is infinite, I finished, understanding finally dawning. They're not just building a reality engine. They're creating a quantum consciousness collective spanning all of time itself. Fori stood, her movement still shaky from the procedures. And once they have that network established, they can rewrite not just the present reality, but every reality that ever was or could be. The medical bay's screens filled with new warnings as the Union's quantum pulse increased in strength. Through our modified cybernetics, we could feel it calling to us, trying to reconnect us to the collective. The resistance ship's dampening field crackled under the strain. We need to move now, Simmons declared. Ready or not. If we wait until they establish the temporal network, there won't be any reality left to save, Dr. Vena concluded. I looked at Fori, seeing in her expression the same mix of fear and determination that I felt. We were no longer just fugitive drones or reluctant resistance fighters. We were the last echo of humanity in a universe about to be rewritten by beings who had forgotten what humanity meant. As the medical technicians rushed to complete our modifications, I accessed my newly unlocked memories of Sarah one more time. The Union had taken her from me once. I wouldn't let them erase her, or anyone else, from existence itself. The resistance ship's engines hummed to life as final preparations began. Beyond its quantum-shielded hull, reality itself seemed to shimmer as the Union's temporal network grew stronger. We had one chance to prevent the ultimate elevation, the forced ascension of all consciousness into a single, union-controlled quantum collective. The question was, could what remained of our humanity prove stronger than the sum of all stolen souls? Quantum insurgency. The resistance ship emerged from its quantum fold directly inside the grand vessel's construction sphere, its advanced cloaking systems straining against the massive detection grid surrounding the project. Through the vessel's transparent hull sections, we watched as streams of drone ships continued to arrive, each one carrying its cargo of suppressed consciousness and stolen memories. Quantum masking holding at 63%, reported the ship's AI. Temporal interference increasing. Cross-dimensional bleed detected in sectors 7 through 12. Commander Simmons' armor shifted through various tactical configurations as he studied the tactical displays. The Union's temporal network is already affecting local spacetime. We're seeing echoes of potential futures overlapping with our present. I could feel it through my modified cybernetics. Reality itself seemed to flutter and shift, like pages in an endless book being riffled by an unseen hand. Beside me, Fori's organic eye twitched as her enhanced systems processed the quantum distortions. The plan is simple, Dr. Venna explained, her multidimensional form stabilizing into a focused configuration. But its execution will be anything but. We need to reach the quantum core before they complete the temporal network integration. Once we're inside, we use our own quantum signatures as a virus, Fori finished. Our unlocked memories, our restored humanity, they'll act as a corruption in their perfect system. The tactical display updated, showing our infiltration route through the partially constructed sections of the grand vessel. The path would take us through areas where reality itself was becoming unstable, where the boundaries between dimensions were already beginning to blur. First team is ready, Simmons announced. 3 of his soldiers stepped forward, their armor rippling with adaptive camouflage patterns. They'll create a diversion in the drone processing center. That should draw enough attention to. He was cut off by a sudden surge of energy that rippled through the ship. Every screen and holographic display flickered, showing momentary glimpses of other realities, versions of ourselves that had made different choices, futures that might yet be. They've begun the initialization sequence, Dr. Venna announced, her form fluctuating wildly. The temporal network, it's becoming self-aware. Through the quantum interference, I saw something that made both my organic and artificial components freeze, Sarah, my daughter, but not as she had been. I saw her as she might have become, a drone like myself, her consciousness suppressed, her memories stored as fuel for the Union's reality engine. We need to move, I said, pushing aside the vision. Now. The resistance ship's launch bay opened silently, deploying our infiltration team. Our modified cybernetics allowed us to move through the vacuum without traditional spacesuits, our systems adapted to survive in the quantum flux between realities. As we crossed the gap between ships, I accessed my tactical systems, overlaying possible futures onto our current timeline. Most of them ended in failure. In some, we were detected and captured. In others, we reached the core too late. In a few, darker timelines, our attempt to corrupt the network only accelerated the collapse of reality. Multiple Union patrols converging on Sector 8, Fori reported, her enhanced senses tracking movement through the construction scaffolding. They're using quantum-linked drone squads. Expected, Simmons replied through our secure channel. They're not just guards anymore, they're nodes in the temporal network. Each one connected to past and future versions of themselves. We reached an access point in the grand vessel's outer hull, our modified systems easily bypassing the standard security protocols. But as we breached the interior, we encountered something none of our simulations had predicted. The corridors were wrong. Reality seemed to fold in on itself, creating impossible geometries and spatial distortions. Through our enhanced perception, we could see multiple versions of each pathway overlapping, each one representing a different potential configuration. The temporal network is affecting the ship's physical structure, Dr. Venna explained, her form adapting to the shifting space. The quantum core is pulling in architectural possibilities from various timelines. Which path is real? One of the resistance fighters asked, their armor struggling to maintain coherence in the quantum flux. They all are, Fori answered, her cybernetic eye scanning the overlapping realities. And none of them. We need to choose the path that leads to the future we want to create. As if in response to her words, a massive surge of energy pulsed through the ship. The quantum distortions intensified, and suddenly we were seeing more than just architectural possibilities. We saw ourselves, hundreds of versions of our team, each one having made slightly different choices in their approach to this moment. The network is aware of us, I realized. It's showing us every possible way we fail. Through the quantum interference, I could see other versions of our mission playing out. In one, we reached the core but couldn't breach its defenses. In another, we successfully planted our quantum virus but were unable to prevent the network from adapting to it. In countless others, we simply ceased to exist as the temporal network rewrote our personal timelines. But there was something else, something the Union hadn't accounted for in their calculations. Each version of ourselves we saw, each potential future or alternate past, carried the same core truth, our restored humanity, our unlocked memories, our capacity to choose. That's it, Dr. Vena exclaimed, her form resonating with sudden understanding. The temporal network doesn't just connect different times and possibilities, it connects consciousness itself. And consciousness, true consciousness, requires free will, Fori finished. They can't complete the network without incorporating genuine choice into the system. But genuine choice is exactly what the Union tries to suppress, I concluded. They want a perfect, controlled collective, but they need our capacity for free will to make it function. It's a fundamental paradox in their design. Commander Simmons' armor shifted into an aggressive configuration. Then we don't need to destroy the network. We need to wake it up. Not just our own suppressed memories, but every drone, I said, the plan forming in my mind. Every elevated being, every stolen consciousness in their collective. If we can unlock their memories, restore their ability to choose, the network will collapse under the weight of trillion individual wills, Dr. Vena confirmed. But reaching the core will be even harder now. The Union will throw everything they have at us to prevent that kind of awakening. Through the quantum distortions, I could see them coming, waves of drone soldiers, each one connected to countless versions of themselves across time and space. Behind them, reality itself seemed to bend and warp as the temporal network grew stronger. We had found our weapon, our way to fight back against the Union's perfect system. But using it would mean facing not just the enemies before us, but every possible version of them that had ever existed or ever would exist. The question was, could we reach the quantum core before the network became strong enough to simply erase our timeline completely? The final configuration. Reality fractured around us as we fought our way toward the quantum core. Each corridor contained infinite variations of itself, each opponent we faced existed in multiple states simultaneously. My enhanced perception tracked dozens of timelines at once, showing me every possible outcome of every possible action. Quantum containment at 30% and falling, the Union's automated systems announced across all potential realities. Timeline convergence imminent. All drones proceed to integration chambers for network initialization. They're desperate, Fori observed, her cybernetic eye tracking the movement of drone squadrons through overlapping dimensions. The temporal network is becoming unstable faster than they predicted. Commander Simmons' armor shifted to adapt to the changing quantum frequencies. The paradox of consciousness is already affecting their systems. Free will versus control, the network can't reconcile the contradiction. We reached a massive chamber that seemed to exist in all possible configurations simultaneously. In the center, suspended in a field of pure quantum potential, hung the core, a crystalline structure that pulsed with the combined consciousness of millions of elevated beings. By the void, Dr. Vena breathed, her multidimensional form resonating with the core's frequencies. They've already begun the consciousness harvest. Those lights, each one is a complete quantum signature. A soul. Through my enhanced vision, I could see them, countless points of light swirling within the crystal matrix. Each one represented a complete life, a full set of memories and experiences, all waiting to be consumed by the Union's reality engine. Sarah, I whispered, detecting a familiar quantum signature among the millions. She's here. Not just a memory or a possibility, they actually elevated her in one of the timelines. Fori's organic hand gripped my shoulder. Remember the plan. We're not here to destroy the network. We're here to wake it up. The chamber's defensive systems activated, deploying waves of quantum-linked drone soldiers. Each one existed in multiple states, fighting us across several timelines simultaneously. Behind them, Union Overseer units emerged, massive cybernetic constructs designed to maintain control over the temporal network. Resistance elements detected, the Overseers announced in perfect unison across all realities. Timeline corruption in progress. Initiating premature network activation. The quantum core pulsed with increasing intensity. I could feel it pulling at my consciousness, trying to draw my quantum signature into its collective. Around us, reality began to blur as timeline convergence accelerated. Now. Simmons ordered, his team moving to protect us as Fori and I approached the core. The quantum virus, upload it before the network fully activates. Dr. Vena's form stretched across multiple dimensions, creating a barrier between us and the approaching Union forces. Remember, your restored memories, your reclaimed humanity. Let them flow into the network. Show them what they've lost. I reached out, both physically and mentally, connecting to the quantum core's interface. Beside me, Fori did the same. Our modified cybernetics, freed from Union control protocols, began transmitting our unlocked memories into the network. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Throughout the chamber, drone soldiers froze as foreign emotions and memories cascaded through their suppressed consciousness. The quantum core's crystal matrix blazed with new energy as our experiences of free will, of genuine choice, of real human connection began spreading through the temporal network. What have you done? The Overseers demanded, their unified voice fracturing across timelines. The network, it's becoming unstable. No, I corrected them, feeling the change rippling through dimensions. It's becoming aware. The millions of quantum signatures within the core, all those harvested consciousnesses, began resonating with our restored memories. Each point of light pulsed with recognition as genuine emotions and experiences flowed through the network. The paradox of consciousness that Dr. Vena had identified grew stronger, amplified by every awakening mind. Timeline corruption spreading, the Union systems reported. Network coherence failing. Reality configurations exceeding acceptable parameters. Through my connection to the core, I could feel it happening, not just in our timeline, but across all possible realities. Every drone, every elevated being, every suppressed consciousness in the Union's vast collective was beginning to remember. Not just their own past, but the pasts of countless others, shared through the very network meant to control them. The harvest protocols, Fori realized, her organic eye wide with understanding. They're working in reverse. Instead of collecting consciousness, the network is redistributing it. Commander Simmons' armor rippled with confirmation. It's not just memories being shared, it's the experience of free will itself. The network is teaching them how to choose again. The chamber shook as reality fluctuated wildly. The Overseer units began to malfunction, their perfect synchronization shattered by the flood of individual consciousness flooding the network. Throughout the Grand Vessel, throughout all possible versions of the Grand Vessel, drones were awakening to their own existence. Sarah, I called through the quantum link, reaching for that familiar signature. Remember who you are. Remember who we all are. The core's crystal matrix reached a frequency I hadn't thought possible. Every quantum signature within it blazed with restored consciousness. The temporal network, designed to impose perfect order across all realities, instead became a conduit for the ultimate expression of free will, the choice to be oneself. Timeline convergence failing, the Union systems announced. Reality configuration defaulting to 2. The voice trailed off as the overseer units collapsed, their control protocols overwhelmed by the flood of genuine consciousness. Throughout the chamber, drone soldiers began removing their helmets, looking at their cybernetic limbs with new awareness. "They're all awakening," Dr. Venna observed, her form stabilizing as reality began to settle. Not just here, but across all timelines. The network connected every elevated being the Union ever created, and now they're all remembering who they were. The quantum core's light changed, shifting from the harsh brightness of forced unity to something softer, more organic. The points of light within it, all those quantum signatures, began to pulse in unique rhythms, each one asserting its own individual nature while remaining connected to the whole. The Union tried to create a perfect system, Fori said, her cybernetic components humming with new energy. But they forgot that consciousness itself requires imperfection. It requires the ability to choose, to change, to be genuinely free. Through the stabilizing quantum field, I could see it happening across dimensions, Union ships going dark as their drone crews awakened, harvest fleets turning back as their commanders remembered their original purpose, elevated beings everywhere choosing to be themselves again. The network isn't collapsing, Commander Simmons realized. It's transforming. Becoming something new. Dr. Venna's form shifted with excitement. Not a tool of control, but a bridge between consciousness. A way for all elevated beings to share their experiences, their memories, their humanity, while remaining uniquely themselves. The chamber's quantum distortions finally settled, reality choosing a configuration that could support both individual consciousness and collective connection. Through my link to the network, I could feel Sarah's quantum signature pulsing with renewed awareness, not just in one timeline, but in many, each version of her choosing her own path while remaining connected to all others. "The grand vessel," I said, understanding at last. "It was never meant to be a weapon. The Union just couldn't see its true purpose." Fori nodded, her organic and cybernetic parts finally working in perfect harmony. Not a prison for consciousness, but a home for it. A place where every elevated being can be both individual and connected, both unique and united. Around us, former drone soldiers began to gather, their quantum signatures glowing with restored humanity. Through the network, I could feel others arriving, elevated beings from across space and time, all drawn to this moment of transformation. The Union had tried to create perfect order through forced elevation and controlled consciousness. Instead, they had built the very thing that would set every mind free, a quantum network that could support genuine connection while preserving individual choice. As reality stabilized around us, I realized that our mission had succeeded in ways we hadn't imagined. We hadn't just prevented the Union's plan for reality domination, we had helped create something entirely new. A future where being elevated didn't mean being controlled, where consciousness could be both individual and connected, where every being could choose their own path while remaining part of a greater whole. The grand vessel would still be built, but not as a weapon of control. Instead, it would become a symbol of genuine connection, a place where all elevated beings could explore what it truly meant to be conscious, to be free, to be human, no matter what form that humanity might take. In the quantum core's transformed light, I saw infinite possibilities stretching before us. And in every one of them, we were finally, truly awake. The end.